welcome to the DMF. I'm your host, Justin Yance, and this is episode 65. And I am going to be talking about wrestling because you are listening to The Wrestling Show. So I will be discussing WWE, AEW, and I'm also going to talk about one of my favorite moments on Raw. So stay tuned. So what's going on in wrestling? Let's talk about WWE and their employees. Apparently, last week they were told that there would be no raises and no bonuses. And you have to look at this from the employees' standpoint. A lot of these people took pay cuts. A lot of them have been going through some of the worst conditions ever. Still traveling during COVID and trying to do their best. And all they're going to get is 64 shares, which is worth $3,000. It's ridiculous. They have record profits, and they're trying to mess with their employees because they think they can get away with it. It's just unfortunate to me that this is how Vince McMahon and his company choose to treat their people who have worked there tirelessly and in a job that's not very forgiving. I mean, the amount of time, the amount of travel, these people should be compensated. They went through a pandemic. A lot of them, like I said, a lot of them took pay cuts. And it's like a slap in the face. And it's just unfortunate to me that WWE thinks they can get away with this because they want to keep costs down. Because apparently the Thunderdome cost more than they thought it would. Well, that's, unfortunate for them. It upsets me because, most the top guys are making well over $1 million. But let's be honest, Vince McMahon is getting off pretty much scot-free on what most professional athletes are getting paid. Most professional athletes are getting paid in the millions, not over $1 million, like $5 million. And they think they can just, skirt the pay. And unfortunately, the WWE superstars don't have any gumption because they're not willing to stand up and say, we deserve to be paid our fair share. The fact that travel expenses are usually not taken care of by WWE, it just shows that they think that they can get away with cutting costs. To me, they're a sham. They're not a real corporation. They still operate under their carny way of doing things. And it's unfortunate because the people that get hurt are the wrestlers and the employees. Now the employees are feeling this. So it upsets me. The other thing that I found out is that WWE's social media, they feel like they have your intellectual property as long as you work there. Wrong. You do not have their intellectual property for as long as they work there. It's madness to me what they think they can get away with. If they are so-called independent contractors, then that means they should be able to take other bookings. They should have their own media. They should be able to do Instagram. They should be able to do Twitch. Zelina Vega was fired from this because she refused to quit her Twitch and her Instagram, and she was making a great living from that, and I don't blame her. And her husband's just sitting there, Aleister Black, doing nothing. I'm hoping he's going to get out of his contract, or they're going to fire him, or something's going to happen so that he can go to AEW or New Japan and do something, because it's just ridiculous that they're just holding him hostage. At least send him back to NXT so he can work with Triple H, who saw something in him and worked with him. It's just, it gets my goat when I hear this. when I hear these things. The fact they think that you can't promote any third party, they think they own you, and they don't. And I'm hoping Andrew Yang goes after these guys. I know he's got the New York mayor thing that he's doing, but please go after them for this independent contractor, because this is ridiculous. They are treating them like employees, so pay them like employees. I just think Vince McMahon just thinks he can get away with anything, and it really disgusts me that he's been able to get away with this for this long. Oh, it just upsets me. It upsets me more than I see with Amazon, because at least they're being played as employees. At least they're not being told that they can't have an Instagram account like Vince McMahon thinks he can get away with. Just upsets me. So let's talk a little bit about the Elimination Chamber is on Sunday. And the first match we've got, well, the biggest match is Drew is going to be defending his title in the Elimination Chamber. It's going to be Kofi Kingston, who replaced The Miz. And it will be Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton versus AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. So that's one match. Then the Universal title shot will be on the line. It'll be Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, King Corbin, Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan, and Cesaro. And the winner faces Roman Reigns immediately after that. Maybe Daniel Bryan wins that so we can actually get that match, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get that. Also, Lacey Evans is pregnant, so she will not be competing against Asuka. So Asuka gets to keep the title for a little longer, it seems, which is good. So I don't know, they might replace that or something. Bobby Lashley will be facing Riddle, and maybe Keith Lee maybe facing him. I don't know. That seems frustrating. And then the women's tag champs, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Lana and Naomi. And Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. So that might be happening. I don't know. So I don't know. It looks like it should be a pretty good show. And then the other thing that happened is on NXT, Adam Cole turned on Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly at TakeOver. So it looks like Vengeance Day. So Adam Cole is now a heel, and it looks like Kyle O'Reilly will be a face. And if I was going to do anything, I would have Kyle O'Reilly win the title at the next TakeOver. And probably a 3-way. But I think they should do that. So those are the goings on in wrestling. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite moments on the wrestling shows. So stay tuned. Let's talk about AEW. So the things that I liked, I'm going to discuss. So we had Serena Deeb versus Riho in the women's tournament. Riho wins. It's good to see Riho back. And Riho had a great match. I was really happy with that. Other thing I liked was Omega. Kenny Omega was at like a preschool. And he was talking to kids. And he's like, Don Callis was like, okay, kids, Uncle Kenny has to go do some, grown-up stuff. And then Omega was like, well, I've got Nakazawa here. You can have that. And the kids started beating up Nakazawa. It was really funny. The Young Bucks beat Santana and Ortiz. I liked this match. Some people didn't like it, but I thought it was a good match. FTR and Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Marco Stunt, they had a little face-off, so that should be happening at the pay-per-view. I assume FTR, along with Tully Blanchard versus Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt, and Luchasaurus. Sting came out, and he dropped the bat, and he actually took a bump. So it looks like we may be getting an actual match at Revolution. And Sting took a power bomb from Cage. It was quite amazing to see that he could actually do that. So I don't know. There may be more in the tank there for Sting. The main event was Lance Archer and Rey Fenix and Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, the Butcher, and the Blade with the Bunny. And Jon Moxley pinned Kingston with the Paradigm Shift. Then Omega and the Good Brothers came out, attacked him, and they made the main event at Revolution, which will be Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega and a exploding barbed wire cage death match. So that should be something interesting to see. I'm kind of excited for that, because I think that will be kind of cool. A lot of people hated the first Jon Moxley match where they used all the weapons, but I liked it, so I'm excited. I think it'll be a good match. I think they'll find a way to have something really great happen. I think Omega retains. But yeah, I liked this show. I thought it was more of a building show than an actual, a lot of great things happening. But AEW continues to impress, continues to do good work, and you know what? I think, they're well on their way to surpassing WWE this year. So let's move on to WWE. Let's talk about Raw. And they had gauntlet matches. It was Kofi and AJ. AJ beat Kofi. Then we had AJ and Drew McIntyre. Drew beat AJ. Then it was Drew and Hardy. Drew beat Hardy. Then it was Drew and Orton. And Orton lost by countout because Alexa Bliss came on the screen and he didn't realize the ref was still counting. It's a foolish finish. And then Sheamus came out and he pinned Drew after he went through pretty much the gauntlet. So that's cool. Sheamus will be the last man to enter at the Elimination Chamber. I thought this was a good use of Drew. Drew continues to be the stalwart in WWE. I see him just getting better and better, and I think he deserves more. And I'm hoping it's not Sheamus and Drew at WrestleMania. I just think that's a lame match, but who knows? Let's talk about SmackDown, which was tonight. When I'm filming this, Edge, or recording this, Edge and Roman had a face-off at the very beginning of the show, and Roman was like, do you want to have a match with a guy, or do you want to have the guy who's had main events for the past 4 years? So that was pretty cool. Roman continues to be amazing in this role, and Edge, he's kind of growing on me. I kind of like this. The only other good thing I liked was the six-man tag. It was Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Cesaro versus Jey Uso, King Corbin, and Sami Zayn. They had a nice little match. Bryan had made Sami tap out, and then they all had a little brawl here and there. Edge ended with Edge spearing Jey Uso, and then Roman speared Edge. And Roman has such a powerful spear and held up the belt. So it looks like it's going to be Roman and Edge. I think that's the way to go. As I said, I wanted Roman and Bryan, but I guess this is the way they want to go. And they're having good promos, so there you go. Edge did commentary along with Paul Heyman. So it was good. Pretty good SmackDown. Not bad Raw. And I liked AEW. I thought those were good shows. so far. I don't really have anything to really complain about. I think WWE's, you know, the other stuff is awful and has no place where it's going, but wasn't bad. The Lacey and Charlotte thing now is, I don't know where that's going, because now Lacey's pregnant, so I guess Charlotte has to get another storyline. Maybe Rhea Ripley can come in and we can actually use her. Who knows? So when we come back, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite moments on Raw. So let's talk about one of my favorite moments on Raw, and I would say this was the number one moment and my favorite moment. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a list, but I want to talk about some of my favorite moments in wrestling so that we can get a little nostalgia in here. And I'm talking about when Mick Foley faced The Rock, and this was January 4th, 1999. And this was an amazing spectacle. Not really necessarily a great match, but Mick Foley had earlier in the night been kind of messed over by the corporation to be in the Royal Rumble. So he holds Shane hostage and demands a match, and he demands a no DQ match. So it will be Mankind versus The Rock with the WWE title on the line. Now remember, he got pushed over at the Survivor Series '98, and then he got I don't know. There's no other way to say it. Then he got screwed over by the corporation at rock bottom. So this is, everyone's expecting to lose again. And what happens is they have, a nice little match. But DX is on Foley's side, and we have the corporation on the other side. And there's one point at the very, he gets Socko on Rock, and Ken Shamrock slips in and hits Mick Foley with the chair. And then we get the scuffle with Billy Gunn attacking Ken Shamrock, and they're all brawling. And the glass breaks. And it's an explosion. It's the biggest pop I think I've ever seen. It's probably the biggest pop Austin ever got. And we're in Worcester, Massachusetts here. And everybody knows we're going to see a title change now. And here he comes down. He's got the hat. He's got the long sleeve shirt. He hits Rock over the head with the chair, puts Foley on top of him, and you can hear the crowd going, 1, 2, 3. And then when Austin gets out of the ring, he throws his hat at McMahon, Vince McMahon, who's seething because Mick Foley has become champion. And I gotta say, this is probably one of Michael Cole's greatest calls, as he really sells the history of what Mankind and Mick Foley did to get to this point. And, sleeping on the head in Motel 6s and, hitchhiking to Madison Square Garden, all the work that Foley did from going all over the world to get here and to be the champion. And to me, this moment symbolizes what the Attitude Era is. All this explosion happen, all these things happening, and then you get that cherry on top of it with Austin setting things right and Foley becoming champion. And I don't think Rock loses anything here, but he gets essentially his comeuppance. And back in the day, that's what usually happened to heels, is they would get their comeuppance. In WWE, we don't really see that anymore. But this is just an amazing moment, and it's one of my absolute favorite moments. It symbolizes everything that the Attitude Era was, of what's going to happen. And if you can remember, this is also the turning point in the war, because Bischoff told Tony Schiavone to say that on the other channel, Mick Foley's going to win their world title. And he says that'll put some butts in the seats. And everybody switched the channel to Raw to see that. It backfired. And they never beat Raw again. This was the turning point. This is the finger poke of doom and all these horrible things that WCW is just about to go down a cliff, go off a cliff, and WWE was just hitting on all cylinders, WWF at the time. And when Foley becomes WWF champion, it was just an amazing moment that you can't put into words. The building was just electric. And Foley's promo afterwards saying, I want to dedicate this match to this win to my two little people at home. Daddy-O did it. And running, just an amazing moment. And just symbolizes everything that can happen in the Attitude Era. Of like, anything can happen. And it did. And you got to see it as Foley became champion. As in this day and age, we never would have seen that. They would have screwed him again. And he just never would have gotten. He would have been Kevin Owens. And it's just an amazing moment. And it symbolizes everything the Attitude Era was and is. As you've got this run-in, the perfect run-in of Austin hitting Rock over the head with the chair, which would set up basically WrestleMania. Because in a couple of weeks, Rock screws Austin out of winning the Royal Rumble. So they go full circle. There was such a great... They knew where they were going. And it worked. And everything worked. And that crowd was just electric. And when the glass breaks, it is like a pop. They call that the Road Warrior pop. But it was like... To me, that's the Austin pop. You hear that glass break and the fans just erupt. And you just knew you're going to see the title change. And Austin set things right and he puts Mankind on Rock. And you can just hear the crowd, counting 1, 2, 3. It's just like you don't see that today. And to me, that's the number one moment in Raw history. I don't think anything can beat it. It's the best moment in Raw. And with that, I think that about does it on this episode. I want to thank you for listening. As always, you can reach me at my handle, @JustinYance. And I will see you next time on the DMF.